So in this video, I'm giving 5 insider tips into why you are not what you drive. My name's Timothy Schultz. I'm actually a lottery winner, and I'm super excited to give you my thoughts.
Are you listening?
So this video is 5 insider tips as to why you are not what you drive. My name's Timothy Schultz. I'm actually a lottery winner. In 1999, I won the Powerball. It's one of the biggest, craziest, life-changing things that's ever happened to me. I'm writing a book about it. I'll put a link below. I'm also interviewing other lottery winners on this channel to see how their experiences compared to my own, how they're different or the same. And if you want to see some of these interviews, also I'm doing vlogs like this one, but if you want to see some of these interviews, do consider subscribing if you're new to my channel and hitting the bell icon to be notified when these interviews come out. But this video is all about 5 insider tips why I believe you are not what you drive. Tip number 1, you need to share it to get enjoyment. And I think so from the perspective of having won the lottery, and this doesn't just pertain to cars, okay? This whole video is not just about cars. It's about material possessions and why I don't think that what you drive or what you own, that's not who you are. And you need to share something oftentimes to get enjoyment out of it. So from the perspective of having won the lottery, I can tell you that, well, just because I won the lottery, my family and my friends and my loved ones, my peers, the people around me did not win the lottery. If I wanted to go on a exotic vacation or do something cool, I had to pay for other people. You know, at that time I was only 21 years old, so I got the latest video game system. That was the first thing I bought, actually. You know, I was never into material possessions anyway, but you know, I did get a new vehicle and a couple other things, but anything that I got, I felt that, you know, I didn't really gain that much. I mean, it was cool. I gained some pleasure from it, but the actual enjoyment, the real true enjoyment, mostly came when I shared it with other people, shared the experience with other people. I gained much more pleasure and satisfaction from that, which leads me to tip number 2, which is that pleasure degrades. Pleasure degrades over time. I made a whole video about 10 insider tips about money and happiness. I'll put a link to that below, where I was, in part of that I was talking about pleasure. But you know, you can gain pleasure from having a new car, having the latest phone, or a number of other material possessions. It can be awesome. You know, it can make life easier. I'm not saying that it's not awesome or incredible to drive a new Tesla or to have the latest video camera, or there's a million material possessions out there, or to have some bling. I'm not into bling. Some people are, that's okay, you know, but I'm just saying that the pleasure that you get from these things degrades over time. If you eat the same meal every day or every single meal, you know, it's gonna get old. Or maybe you just love cheeseburgers and you're just going to eat cheeseburgers. Maybe you're that type of person and you're scared of change and you just want to eat a cheeseburger every meal. You know, more power to you if you're into cheeseburgers. But this video is not about cheeseburgers. I'm just saying that the pleasure that you gain from most material possessions, I would argue, degrades over time, and pleasure is different than happiness. Which leads me to tip number 3. False idols sold as happiness in our culture. These material possessions in commercials, in advertisements, in our culture, in our media, they're sold as making us happier. You know, there are models, you know, beautiful people driving in these cars, smiling down a scenic ocean highway. If only you owned the latest fill in the blank. Well, you would be that person, wouldn't you? Or the celebrities or the rock stars or the rap stars showing off their bling, or the sports stars, you know, because they have millions of dollars and all these fancy things. So aren't they just so happy that they've really made it in life? You know, aren't they just better, somehow better, in a better state of mind because they have these things on them? No, they're not. And look at, you know, it's like, some people are like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. They just want their precious. They just want their precious. but does that make them any happier? I just think that material possessions don't necessarily make you happier. And it's sold in our society that they do. So it's the complete opposite. And I think some people actually believe that they do. And to anyone watching this that thinks that they do, I have some news for you. You're not what you drive. You're not what you own. You're not the size of your wallet. I mean, some people may define you by those things. You may define yourself by those things. And that's not what this video is about. I'm just saying there's a difference between being defined by something and actually who you are. And just because you have the latest new car, or you have this, or you have that, that's not a magical key to happiness. That doesn't mean that you're way happier than the guy who is sweeping floors. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you're way happier than anybody else. And a lot of people already know this, but not everybody knows this. And I think that's one thing that I learned after I won the lottery. And so that's why I feel that, partially anyway, why I'm passionate about this subject. Tip number 4. So what does make you happy? As a human, you are much deeper and complex than just how much money you have or how many material possessions that you own. Quality of life matters. Relationships matter. Life is short, and there are no guarantees. You could be gone tomorrow. You don't know how long it's going to last. What I'm getting at is, if you're like most people, probably what you're truly seeking in life is happiness. And in our society, we are taught that these material possessions can provide those things. But I think instead, mostly what they're providing, mostly anyway, is pleasure. Or maybe it's bettering your life in some way, but it's not necessarily making you happier. But it's sold as such in our media. I don't think that material possessions, most of the time anyway, in and of themselves, necessarily create happiness that should be created from within. If I own the newest, most incredible vehicle ever, I am going to be so unbelievably happy. You're not even going to recognize me. I'm just going to smile all the time. Anytime I do a video, I'm just going to have a permanent grin, and you're going to know why, and it's going to be because of that new shiny car. No, it doesn't necessarily work that way. But tip number 5, money can't buy happiness most of the time. And I did a whole video about, I referred to it earlier, I'll put a link below, about my insider tips in depth about money and happiness. But I do think most of the time money in and of itself doesn't make you happy, and that includes material possessions. I think it can better quality of life. I think you can do wonderful, wonderful things. There's even a study out there that that most lottery winners aren't significantly happier than they were before they won. Sure, they are like right when they win because it's awesome and the exhilaration is like out of this world. It can turn life on its head. But once the exhilaration wears off, you're not necessarily going to be jumping up and down your whole life screaming that you won the lottery. And it doesn't just pertain to lottery winners. I think there's another study that shows once you make over, I believe it was $75,000 per year, you are not going to be that much happier if you're making $500,000 per year. So, the person that's making millions per year versus the person that's making $100,000 per year is probably, their level of happiness is not going to be significantly different necessarily, or at least not necessarily because of the money itself. Because once you get past the threshold of that 75,000 or, around that amount, then certain things in life are easier, such as not stressing as much about bills, putting a roof over your head, putting food on your table, that sort of thing. And so I just don't think that material possessions themselves equal happiness necessarily. I think it can be fun. I think they can give you pleasure. I think, I love many material possessions. I find enjoyment out of them, but I don't covet them, and I don't necessarily think they bring happiness. I think having won the lottery, it's really become magnified because at least, initially when I won, I couldn't afford to get everything in the world I wanted. I had limits even then, but I could afford I had a lot more financial power than I had when I was working at the gas station, I'll tell you that. So I just learned that these fancy things, a big screen TV, different things, that doesn't make you happier. It can be fun, it can be awesome, but it doesn't make you necessarily happier. And there is enjoyment in sharing those types of things with people, but I don't think as it's sold in our society that you've really made it because you have this gold chain or you have this or you have that. You're really getting somewhere in life. Well, there are some very wealthy people out there who are very unhappy. So that's very true too. So just because you have the fanciest material possessions doesn't make you better. It has nothing to do with the dignity or respect that you do or don't deserve. Human dignity transcends any sort of dollar amount or material possession anyway. And I think most people already know that, but I'm, having won the lottery, I'm passionate about this subject. So anyway, but if you found this video helpful in some way, please go ahead and like this video. And let me know in the comments, do you think that material possessions or like a new car can make someone happier? Why or why not? There's no right or wrong answer here. I'm genuinely curious. I love checking out your comments. But don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're new to see some more of these vlogs as well as interviews with other lottery winners. But thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support.